Hey kiddies, welcome back to Closing Time. I'm glad you came back for another round. Tonight's a good show. We got Gary Lindsey. First now, a word from our sponsors. Wait, never mind. We don't have any sponsors. We gotta work on that. Let's start this fucking show.
I'm your huckleberry.
Last call for alcohol.
Take him home!
Speak up or forever hold your peace.
Somebody just walked over your grave.
Just get him the hell out of here!
Hello, my friend! Hey!
Go home, Jake.
Alright, guys. I don't know if you know it, but some of you might recognize that theme music that's playing right there. That's Blue is Blue, Black is Black. Those good old days ain't coming back. That's a song by a band called Eyed Vermillion. Lead singer of that band is none other than our guest tonight, Mr. Gary Lindsey. Gary's an awesome dude. I've gotten to know him for throughout the last couple of years by playing music and shit. And we both our bands put out an album called Swapping Spit. And that was this is when I was still with the Gallows. The Gallows covered about 5 Eyed Vermillion songs. Eyed Vermillion covered about 5 goddamn Gallows songs, and then we recorded In League with Satan, the Venom cover, and Gary added his tracks to that, and then eventually James Honeycutt put on some stuff as well. So there's that. That's Swapping Spit EP. A little bit of knowledge bomb being dropped on your Hiroshima type brain. All right, so here's the deal, folks. I just got back from a month-long tour with Austin Lucas, John Snodgrass, and a fellow by the name of Matt Good, who's also in a band called Northcote. It was a very, very, very cool tour to be part of, and I'm glad that I got to see a lot of you guys on this last tour. I was fucking terrified being part of this tour, mainly because, I wasn't originally going to do it. Originally, I decided I was not going to be doing this. I'd already made my announcement that I was taking a hiatus. I was breaking up the Broken Band and going on hiatus to just live a normal life a little bit, work on some music, eventually put together a new band, focus on just work, home, being a dad, being a normal dude in Pittsburgh. Right when I was kind of finishing up one of the last tours that we did, we happened to play it in Nashville, and Austin, who's a buddy, came to the show and asked me if I'd be interested in doing a tour with him. And my immediate reaction was, hell no. The timing is just terrible. Not because I didn't want to do a tour with Austin Lucas, but because, I was done. Mentally, I was exhausted, and I don't think I could possibly do another tour at that point. But then he started explaining, why I'd like to do this tour, maybe, with no band, just like the two of us, basically kind of we'll do a set each and then cover our own stuff, probably get a couple other guys involved, and it'd be kind of in a sense, maybe like one of those revival tours that Chuck Reagan's put together, something like that. And I really was pretty reluctant, because I didn't know if I could pull off doing a tour without a band. I didn't know if I wanted a tour. I didn't think I wasn't sure if his crowd would like me, my crowd would like his. For whatever reason, there's a litany of reasons in my head that I told myself, no, I don't think I can do it. But I was like, let me think about it. I didn't think about it too long, because my buddy Jeff Firebaugh in Nashville there, he was standing right there and pretty much overheard the conversation. And he was like, dude, you got to do this tour, man. Don't be an idiot. You know what I mean? You don't be an idiot. You have to do this tour. And I thought about it, and he was totally right. It's something I needed to do. I needed to find some more confidence in myself, because I'd beaten myself up pretty bad. And I wanted to, it'd be a good way to play in front of different types of crowds. Austin's crowd is different than my crowd. Let's see. It'd get me out of my shell, so to say. It would also separate me from the Broken Band, the Goddamn Gallows, and 357. I've always been part of this. I've always been part of a band, and as much as I love being part of a band, I'm used to being part of a band. I've always still kind of felt like, well, it's not really me, it's the band itself that, So and there's always that little thing that fucks with you, like, am I really any good, or am I just masking it behind all these other players, who are amazing, And maybe you're rolling your eyes right now. Maybe you're not. I don't know. But that's the kind of shit that goes through my stupid fucking head when I'm beating myself up, and I tend to do that. I think anybody that plays music or writes or is in a creative outlet some way or another, you beat yourself up at some point. And that's how I do it. So, fast forward some time, and we go on this tour. First day of the tour is in Detroit, and it's also the first day that I meet John Snodgrass, who's also in a band called Drag the River out of Colorado. He's been in a lot of stuff. Scorpios. Armchair Martian is another one. And then our buddy Matt from Canada is in a group called Northcote. Didn't meet any of these guys before. Between those two and Austin, these are singer-songwriter types. I am not the singer-songwriter type. I don't feel anyway. I just don't classify myself like that. So I was pretty damn nervous. And the first day, I go on first, and I'm sitting down on a chair, playing guitar, feeling kind of stupid. Thankfully, there was only about 7 of you there. Appreciate that. So it wasn't that bad, but I didn't feel like it went badly. It just felt very alien to me, And then of course, Matt comes up and he starts in on his set, and and Jalen comes up and Austin comes up, and they're I think they're a lot more used to doing something in that kind of arena. So their sets went great. Played some songs with Austin, and it went good, and it was good enough where I was like, okay. I can pull that off. And then another show goes by. Eventually, after like 3 or 4 shows, me sitting down, Austin's pretty much the guy who's like, dude, you need to stand up. You look like a jackass being the only guy that's sitting down on a fucking chair while we're all standing up. Just do it. Just stand up. You might even feel better about it. And I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was exactly about just standing up and playing. Like, that made me feel better about it, and like he just and then I just felt better. I felt a lot more comfortable, I should say. And it was cool because afterwards, Austin had said something about like, see, you got your pose going, you got it, you got your sus back, and he was right. It was cool, and the rest of the tour proceeded to be just an overwhelming experience of I enjoyed playing music again, and it was really cool. And it was really cool to see a bunch of people come out and see me play without a band, and see what the kind of stuff that me and Austin were doing together, and to have their all those guys' fans embrace me, and to have a lot of you guys actually embrace Austin, John, and Matt, because I know the style is very different to a lot of you, but man, when you see it and you actually hear it, it's incredibly dynamic, and there's a lot of good times to be had on that tour. One of the times happened to be in Austin, Texas. I had already wanted to do something with Gary as far as an interview goes, and I knew that we were going to be in Austin, so I hit him up and I asked him if he'd like to be part of it, and he said he'd love to. The tricky thing was the day that we were playing Austin happened to be his birthday. So, it being his birthday and him having all of his friends and his wife there, I didn't want to bother him with his birthday. I didn't want to sit there and try to force a stupid interview with him. So, what ended up happening is we hung out. We had a few beers. We went back to the venue. I played the set. At some point, it's my damn phone going off again. Thank you, who's ever text messaging me. I guess I should thank myself for not turning my fucking alarm off. But okay, so we ended up playing our set, and then Gary ended up going to do another set. He had to play that night as well. So the whole plan was, okay, we're gonna meet up after this, after we're gonna meet up at the end of the night, and take it from there, and we'll see what happens. Maybe we can do it. Well, then it wasn't gonna happen because by the time me and Gary both met up with each other, we were pretty sauced up, and I think Gary was trying to make out with every guy in the place, possibly. Don't quote me on that. Just kidding. Not really. But so yeah, I ended up meeting up with my buddy Mark, who was just happened to be in town. He had an extra bed in his hotel room, so I crashed out with him. And Gary somehow got home, and I felt kind of bad because I remember Zoe, his wife, she was like, "Can you just please make sure that he gets home?" And I was like, "Totally." And I'm a fucking dickhole. I forgot. And so the next day, I'm trying to hit him up, and the guy's working. I didn't realize that he was at work. He was at work, but I'm texting him, and I'm like, "Are you all right? Can we still do it?" And he's not getting back to me. And now I'm worried, so I start texting his wife, Zoe. I'm like, dude, did he come home? Did he come home? And finally, she's like, "Yeah, he's at work right now. He came home. It's pretty funny. You should ask him about it." So eventually he got back to me. We were able to meet up. The hotel was pretty close to where he lived. So he picked me up. We went back to his house, and we started this interview over a couple of Lone Stars. And yeah, it was pretty funny, though, because I was like, "So, how'd you get home?" And his answer was, "I have no idea." He had no clue how he got home. All right, guys. So, all right, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys eavesdrop on the kind of shit that me and Gary talk about. It's a pretty cool conversation. We cover a lot. We cover everything from being in Hank 3's band to knowing and being in bands with all the guys from Mastodon long before they became Mastodon, to meeting Tom Waits, to being a dad, to what Eyed Vermillion really is to him. And he's a really cool dude, and I hope you guys like it. And I'll see you shortly after this.
Do you have a good birthday?
I did have a good birthday. It was very subtle and did not expect it to even be that good.
You got a bunch of people over at the bar.
Bunch of people over at Bull McCabe's. The owner always takes really good care of me.
Is that the Irish guy behind the bar?
That's that
dude
nutty
is a fucking character, man.
That guy is always.
He was going
like
off
that. Yes.
about soccer with this little short guy who was talking about how he played professional soccer, and the guy's like, "You didn't play no fucking soccer."
Yeah. Well, maybe you did play soccer, but you didn't play football, which is what it's for. And it's just like, dude, okay, all right, chill. Yeah, he
ended up kicking this guy out.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, "Fucking get the fuck out of here."
That's totally
like,
him.
You gotta leave now. That's fucking great. Shit, man.
Johnny always takes good care of me. Extra good care last night. He just kept topping me off with John Powers, and that's why I feel the way I do today.
Yeah, man,
Hair of the dog. Cheers to you, son.
Cheers. Yeah, last night was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So I gotta ask you this. Mm-hmm. Somebody told me that I gotta ask you about when you met Tom Waits. Because I know you get the comparison with the voice all the fucking time.
Oh, what a glorious day.
So
what a glorious day. It was really quick. What happened was Shelton was okay. Mojo Magazine went to Tom Waits and said, "We're going to do this thing like Tom Waits edits Mojo Magazine. You'll be on the cover. You can pick out whatever, music you love and tell people about it, tell the whole thing." And they said, "Who did you want to interview?" And he chose Hank. He chose Hank 3. He was
wow.
Yeah. Because they were collaborating on a song together at the time. So they had kind of gotten friendly. And so we were going on tour. Shelton, knowing that Tom Waits is a bit more like a religious figure to me, let me tag along, bless his heart.
Good.
At the risk of he didn't say it, but I was just like, don't geek out. And that was a legitimate concern.
Don't be that guy.
It could have happened for sure. But I didn't stick around for the whole interview. He sent a car to pick us up, drove about an hour and a half outside of Frisco to an undisclosed location.
Yeah, put a little mask on.
They taped my eyes shut, and I had to change cars 3 times.
Yeah.
And I think I was on a horse at one point. No, that was a different day. Anyway, but we I wasn't sure if I was actually going to get to meet him because they were like, no, they didn't really want any tag-alongs. I was pretending to be the manager who was supposed to be coming along. And so I just got in the car and Shelton got out and I saw Tom Waits, come out real excited to shake his hand. And at that point, and then I went over to a bar. At that point, I was just like, wow, I thought I would have been fine with just that. I was like, I was just 10 feet away from Tom Waits. I just looked right out the window at him, and I was cool. So I went to a bar. I had the driver take me to a bar, and he waited outside. I had some drinks, and I had my journal. I just wrote about that.
Yeah.
Just that I wrote about.
Seeing him outside.
Yes. And about an hour and a half later, I get a call. So I was like, come on back. And the car brings me back, and there they are. They're just standing there. And I get out of the car, and Sheldon is already prepped to, like he's a big fan. Because when I found out that they were working together, Shelton knew of Tom Waits and had some favorites, but he wasn't like me. So I went and burned everything and sat him down in the back of the bus. It was like, okay, this is early jazz 70s period.
Yeah.
This is
Closing time.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad as
all
Me.
Mule Variations, Alice, Blood Money, and he,
That's a lot of music.
Yeah, so I'm sure he gave Tom a bit of a heads up on how big a fan I was. Like, get out. He puts out his hand. Says my name, almost melted then, and I shook the hand. The right hand that had penned my favorite songs, had played the piano, the melodies. I shook that hand. It was in mine, and I held. I didn't geek.
Yeah,
I was good, and I made him laugh. I remember that. That was a big one. I just joked around. I was like, "You coming?"
That's
out?
a big thing, though.
It is
when it's somebody that you completely fucking
just
head
worship.
over heels over,
Yeah.
and you know this guy more than you know yourself.
That's
maybe,
right. Yeah,
and you get to meet him, and you make him laugh.
Yeah, it was awesome. I just made a joke about getting him into the show. I was like, "You coming out to the show?" And he was just like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, it's sold out. I'll see what I can do." And I just got and he turned to Shelton and he laughed. And I was like, "I just made that way laugh."
Yeah.
Still didn't geek out. And we hung out for just a little bit. I did blow it. I didn't get a picture. I totally spaced on that. I will forever regret that.
Yeah.
But he came, and then the next night he came out to the show. He was on the back of the bus. I come back, and I'm like, I didn't know he was going to be there. I thought he'd just come to the show. And I come there, and Kathleen was there too, his wife.
Yeah.
And for anyone
who's right a lot of that stuff.
she is without her. You would probably only know 70s Tom Waits if you knew that.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that. If you look at the credits, almost everyone Waits Brennan. Her name's Kathleen Brennan. And she is the one credited with taking him down that path away. He was at a point where he didn't know what he wanted to do. He was tired of doing torch songs. The kind of old jazzy thing was like he felt like it had run its course. She was the one who was like, "Hey, this is Captain Beefheart. You know of him, but now get to know him," and nudged him down the experimental path that just made him into the international superstar we know now.
Was it Frank's Wild Years? Pretty much the album that
was the first one. Let's see, Swordfish Trombone, Frank's Wild Years. Yes, Frank's Wild Years was the first one, and it was like a trilogy. It was Rain Dogs, Swordfish Trombone, and Frank's Wild Years were the three where he just went, xylophones, and now I'm just gonna beat on this piece of metal and make noises. So she was there. I got to shake her hand. That was in a way even more special.
Yeah.
She looked, just looked right in her eyes.
That's the more intimate, other unknown side.
Yeah. I was like,
yeah.
This is family. It's like, oh my God, it's like almost like hanging out in their living room.
Yeah.
And he's on my bus. Or, Shelton's bus. But
Still,
but
your
the
home.
bus the bus I am allowed to, share. And so, he, again, the next day, when he said, that night when he was just like, hey, Gary. I was like, it's like, hey, Tom Waits. What's going on with Tom Waits, Tom Waits? How are you doing, Tom Waits, on my bus? It was just like, that was where I almost geeked out again. And so month goes by, and the magazine comes out, and he mentioned me in it. And that,
Shut up.
Yeah, just a sentence, a quick sentence. He was just like, he's like, Shelton, he stepped out of the car, dressed in skulls or something like that. And he had his sidekick, Gary Mutton Chops Lindsey with him.
Nice.
And he gave me a nickname.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So that was just the perfect icing on the cake.
Not only do you get to meet him, you crack him up. He hangs out on your bus, brings his wife aboard.
Yep.
You get introduced to her, and he mentions you in magazine, and even calls you fucking mutton chops.
Yes, that's
That's like the
I
greatest.
can die now.
That's
I
the
can die.
greatest story of meeting somebody's hero.
It's
you know
just,
what I mean?
it was
Do you
so
think-
perfect.
Is he like your be all end all hero, or just
Yeah,
one of them?
he is. Well, I guess
big one,
he's
is
only
he-
one. He's the one. Yeah, he's not the only one. I mean, I've got, if you're talking style, obviously, like Lemmy's up there. And
yeah.
funny thing, actually, I met Lemmy once and had the exact opposite experience. I call it the Lemmy lesson. Yeah, I made a complete ass out of myself and I just was, I was schnocker drunk. I was just wasted, and I went up. I was at Nashville Pussy was playing in L.A., and so we went to the show. They're old friends, and so he just was there. And the thing is I had been living in California. I've been living in L.A. for about 2 years, and I'd been trying to meet him. Everyone kept telling, just go to the Rainbow Room. Just go to the Rainbow Room.
Well, that's the legend.
Yeah.
It's just constantly there.
Everyone is always just like, oh, you haven't met Lemmy? I just met Lemmy a few minutes ago. Here, I got Lemmy in my pocket. Like, everyone's met Lemmy. It's not even a big deal. I couldn't seem to get it. Like, every time I go down there for a show, he's never there. So I look over, I see he's there. I even look at my wife, and she's like, okay, we're okay. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're in. By the end of the night, we're going to be like, do you have the other half of this locket? You're going to want to adopt me. We'll
move in.
We'll probably be roommates soon.
Yeah.
It's all going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'd had a bad day that day, and my wife let me start drinking at about 2.
Okay.
And so, as I mentioned, I was slurry, spitting, spittle on the side of my mouth, drunk.
Oh, man.
And I went up, and I similar thing. I cracked a joke right away, but it did not hit. I think I missed. I said something like, hey, I'm in a band and we cover one of your songs, and he was like, which one? I think I said like Born to Lose or something like that. Or Born to Run, I think maybe I said, or something like, yeah, I tried cracking a joke. Like I said, like a Bruce Springsteen song. And he's like, that's not no fucking song. And he was like, immediately just lost him.
Yeah.
Lost him. And I was like, okay, and I knew it wasn't going well, so I just kind of backed away because I knew this happens to Lemmy all the time. He would remember.
Right.
But later on that night, my wife, who had also had a couple, was nice enough to join me on the train to embarrassment land. And as Lemmy was trying to leave, she goes, Lemmy, you. Goes up real close in his face. You two things.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like behind him, and she's like, first off, you got to meet my husband. And I'm behind Lemmy doing the neck cutoff thing, going, no, I already blew it. He turns, catches me doing the neck thing. Yeah. And I just, hey, Lemmy. And he's like, well, I already fucking met him, was he said to her. And I was like, oh, great. Then she goes, okay, number 2, you need to try Maker's Mark, and shoves this watery, melted ice Makers and spit in his mouth. Now, as we all know, Lemmy has been drinking Jack Daniels since before any of us were born.
Right.
Lemmy doesn't need a Maker's Mark rep to come and convince him to trade up brands at 63 or whatever.
Sure.
But she just sticks it right in his mouth. And he just takes a sip and just got the fuck out of there. Just got the...
Well, check this out. Did you watch the Lemmy documentary?
Yeah.
He was drinking Maker's Mark.
Fuck off.
I swear to God. I shit you
you
not.
stop.
He was drinking fucking Maker's Mark in that movie.
I have that recorded. I'm watching it tonight.
If he's drinking Maker's Mark...
I will show that to Zoe.
Yep, Zoe.
I am going to show that to my wife.
Zoe Lindsey
day.
got Lemmy to switch to Maker's Mark.
Wow, that is amazing.
Probably not, but at
Probably
least
not.
He was drinking Maker's Mark in the movie.
That means that night will now serve a second lesson. Like, I had walked away that night a little bummed at first that I was like, I thought I was old enough to not make a fucking total douche out of myself at this age. Obviously, I'm not. But I had always walked away with it. I was saying that every bad experience has a good story, and that's one good thing out of it. And when you're in the middle of the bad experience, that lesson, knowing that gets me through some of the bad times. I'm like, this is gonna make a great story, you know. And it did. And I told everyone at work, and then you got to tell them the Lemmy story. And it turned into the Lemmy lesson, is what it was. And I honestly believe, that I was lucky that happened before I met Tom Waits, because the Lemmy lesson, you better believe, was stuck at the front of my brain when I was going out to meet Tom.
Yeah.
I was like, that is not happening today. When I went to the bar, they'd be waiting for them. I just had beer, no whiskey, and I was ready. Everything
happens for a reason.
And the Lemmy lesson is definitely one thing that got me, down the line, really worked out in my favor. So remember that when you're having terrible times. The Lemmy lesson.
The Lemmy lesson, I like that.
Yes, exactly.
So let's go back to where you fucking started. Where were you born?
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, the Mistake by the Lake. My mom got knocked up in college. She was going to college there. My family's from Chicago. So I was born out there. Grew up outside of Chicago. In,
Like what part of Chicago?
West Side, like it was Berwyn, and then Brookfield. Yeah, Brookfield.
Okay.
And
All right.
Brookfield area.
Yeah, I know
by
the
the
area.
zoo, as everyone says. Big zoo there.
Yeah.
And then I got the hell out of there as soon as I could at about 18 or so, like once I graduated. And I discovered this wonderful little piece of heaven on earth called Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
I went down there.
It's a cool town, man.
It's a great town. And I'll tell you, back then, it was like, the Chicago scene. I was a ska skin at the time. I was oi oi, and it is so like provincial and territorial. It's like it's not even just a matter of punks only want to hang out with punks or skins only want to hang out with skins.
Yeah.
It's even worse. It's like even the anti-racist skins, they don't get along with the racist skins or the punks or even each other.
Well, that was the thing, like, because I grew up in Milwaukee, and I was part of like this whole street punk kind of culture thing, and we would go down to Chicago, and you would see how everybody's broken up into such unique factions, and there's so many crews down there. Like, we didn't really have crews in Milwaukee too much, but there was like crews there, and the Sharps were the quote unquote good guys.
Yeah,
it was like, and I always thought, I was like, okay, the Nazis, they just beat up these particular people. But the Sharps
beat up everybody.
They beat up everybody.
Anyone who looks at them wrong.
Yeah.
Anyone.
And they're the good guys.
Yeah, exactly. They would go to shows, and at first I really dug it. Like I was, in the 80s, no one was ever a skinhead first. You were a punk first.
Right.
When you saw a skinhead walking down the street, you just thought that was a punk rocker. You saw a shaved head, bomber boots. You're like, oh, that's a punk rocker.
Yeah.
You get into it, you realize that they're totally, their own thing. And it was the strong message of the music that got me into it at first. Unity.
Right.
Sham 69, the kids are united, and that was where I would go to shows, and although they would pick on, they were always so tight. I loved that at first. That was what drew me to it.
Right.
Although it was
I think that's what drew all of us to that scene.
It was a tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
It was tough to get into. Yeah, you had to run the risk back then. You bought a pair of Doc Martens, you're going to have to defend them to keep them.
Yeah.
Yeah, people got taxed a lot. There was
Really?
a bunch of there was a crew of skins that would carry box cutters in, just with them. So they, get you up against the wall, just cut the laces off and just pull them off, and they were gone.
Wow.
I would go up, they'd be like, what size are you? And you better not answer. Because if you were their size, you're going to lose your boots. So it was all kind of it was a test of your mettle for sure.
Sure.
I got in through humor.
Yeah.
I started.
Did you get into a lot of fights back then with those guys?
Yeah, but I was looking for it. I fully, because it's the bonding that you get out of getting into a street fight with someone is so intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're getting into that scene, you want to prove yourself so badly. So the second anything went down, I fully admit it. I was right there in the fray.
Yeah.
Sure. But the thing is like I didn't understand how now that we were skins, we supposedly hated punks because, like as I said, nobody was a skinhead without being a punk first. And so I was like, but we were punks 6 months ago.
Right.
We just remember you had a mohawk, I had pins, we just shaved that off. So why do we hate them again? Because they're cool. And
Don't we like the same music too?
Yeah, we kind of go to the same shows.
Yeah.
So I didn't get that at all. And my best friend in the world, Kevin Cole, moved down to Atlanta to be in this band Moonstomp.
Okay.
And he was like, man, you should come down and visit. And so I went down there, and it was a funny thing. It was
What year was this? What year?
This was 88.
88. Okay.
1988.
All right.
And there was this girl that he was like just kind of hanging out with up north who was like really infatuated with him. And she was like, I want to go see Kevin. Let's go down. It's like, okay. She's like, but what thing? You can't tell him that I'm bringing. I want to be a surprise. And I was like, that's not a good idea. But she was like, I mean it. You absolutely can't. And I was just like, all right, okay. So we get down there.
Be your fault.
Oh,
yeah. Goes wrong.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
so we get there. We open the door. I knock on the door. He opens. Hey, how you doing? Big hug. She's standing off to the side. And I was like, I come in. I was like, I've got a little surprise. And her name was Gina, Italian chick. Gina Feccarata. I'm not making that up.
Holy shit.
Gina Feccarata. Very nice girl. She's a bit of a temper.
Yeah.
But she steps into the doorway, and he jokingly goes, oh, shit, and slams the door. Totally meant like it's a joke.
It's a joke, yeah.
She flipped out I mean, lost it. That Italian temper kicked in.
Yeah.
You fuck. Nobody slams a
fucking-
fucking door
I'll
in my
break his
fucking
fucking
face.
head open.
I'll get my brothers down here, and you fuck. I would fucking hate
man.
you. 16 hours. And
Firecracker.
She wanted to leave right then. We had just drove 16 hours, even though it was a 12-hour drive. We took the long route through Ohio like an idiot. And she was like, I'm leaving. And I was like, okay, see ya.
Yeah.
And that's how I got to Atlanta.
No shit. So did she stay or did she leave?
She left.
She left.
See ya.
Oh, fuck.
See ya.
Oh, that
And
worked
so,
out all right.
so 12 years later, and I got down there and I went to a show. And I'll tell you what, I knew I wasn't going home. They took me out to this bar on Ponce de Leon called the White Dot. Dive bar used to have punk shows,
Yeah.
to see this band called the Tombstones, Stevie T's old.
Oh, yeah. Stevie Tombstone.
Right. And we go there, and this guy, Len Todd, rest in peace, he was one of the first people to take me in, let me stay with him, and took me around. He was like, first thing you need to know about Atlanta, this band, number one, best thing, number one best thing about this city. And I look up on the stage, and there's a guy with long hair, dressed in all black, playing slide guitar, swampy stuff. And I remember thinking, I was like, if I was in Chicago right now, my friends would be throwing bottles at this guy.
Right.
Just because he looked different.
Right.
Just because he wasn't playing oi. And these guys were not only were they not doing that, they were telling me, this is number one, you need to know this.
Right.
Wherever you go, and get this in your system. And they were right.
Yeah, so they actually gave a shit about the
did.
music, which is why a lot of people get into it for the first.
The music, and also just for some reason those barriers didn't exist. I guess I've always suspected that it was because it was a smaller scene than Chicago. And if you don't have the luxury of being able to pick out, who you hang out with to look exactly like you and be into everything you're into, you naturally just hang out with people who look, different types of people.
Chicago's a huge city.
city.
People
It's
forget
very
how
gorgeous.
big Chicago
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and with a size like that, and population like that, there's going to be a lot of elements, and I can see how a scene like that in Chicago could break off into like almost gangs, so it becomes something different.
It's petty tribalism, and you can't. I'll tell you what. It's
a lot of that's for protection. A lot of that's just.
I was just gonna say.
A lot of that's for protection. A lot of that's
us.
machismo, bravado, whatever.
Yep.
But I mean, like, there is a purpose to it. There is a
It
function.
starts
does
out with
function
security.
as something at some point.
It
But
does.
in a town like Atlanta.
not quite as necessary.
It's a smaller town.
Yeah.
It's probably a lot more tightly knit. I've never spent a whole lot of time in Atlanta just doing shows.
It
and
was
stuff, but
so casual.
I know a lot of people from there, and that's the vibe that I've always gotten.
Coming from the intensity of Chicago, where not even besides the clickiness, it's just the whole culture is, hey, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's just like if you look at someone around, they're getting out of their car and they want to fight. It's such a fighting culture, a working class fighting culture. Like whenever I would growing up looking at the '68 Democratic Convention that always they play in the '60s. I was always like, yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. That happened in Chicago.
Yeah.
Because Chicago cops are dickheads, and I hate to say that because I'm not an all coppers are bastard type of guy, but being a Chicago cop is like beating your head against the wall. You're up against a force you're never going to win. And I have pity that if 20 years of being a cop dealing with that, I'd be a dick too.
Sure.
But they are all bullies and shit. And so, so it does make sense that you have to kind of come together with the group. You got to feel like someone's got your back.
Right.
Feeling like a lone wolf in Chicago. Because I was an only child and I was from a broken home. So I spent a lot of time having to go places by myself. And it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. You feel safer in just a group of three people.
Absolutely.
So.
I mean, I completely understand it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with a lot of it. I think some of it can get kind of stupid.
Oh, really?
But I completely sympathize with how it started, how you can get into that, how you need to have that. But
when you're young. It blows my mind when people don't grow out of that, though.
Yeah.
And we don't need that anymore.
When you meet like the 45-year-old skinhead, though, that dude is usually pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Because he's been through it all.
That's right. He might have a shit.
I mean?
You even had to look through it. He probably has stopped buying into the fashion, the expensive fashion. So
Precisely.
he probably has like a polo style shirt, but it's not a Fred Perry anymore.
Yeah.
Because he's like, why am I going to pay $75 for a shirt when I like that style and it's $20 at Walmart?
Yeah.
He probably has work boots on instead of Doc Martens now. Same thing. Why am I going to spend $150 on a pair of boots that are going to, they're like gym shoes? Yeah. But he's there and he likes to drink beer and he's more chill, you know. And, I went down to Atlanta. There was none of that. It was like all scum. We all hung out together.
Yeah. That's excellent.
And it was great. And I didn't want to leave and I didn't. And I stayed and it was.
You were there for how long?
12 years.
12 years.
Till 2000.
No shit.
Met my wife there.
Okay. She's from Atlanta?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Still with her.
So you were running around. So that's where you met Stevie Tombstone.
That's where I met. That's another.
Stevie T.
I was because of Atlanta. I met Shelton.
Mm-hmm.
My first real band, like actually get out play and tour. Knuckle.
That was your first.
That was my
touring
first.
band?
Yeah.
What was that
when we
like?
pushed
I
it out.
haven't heard that.
That was people back then. They used the G word. They called it. Some people like to call it grunge, which of course just like made all of us want to punch. But when I listened to it, I understand why. Because we wanted something that was heavy and that was obviously really punk influenced, but we were definitely in a post-hardcore frame of mind. I was listening to bands like Helmet and Quicksand, and we wanted something to have that drive, but. It was the 90s, and I was glad that open-mindedness was becoming a trend because of the Lollapalooza thing.
Yeah.
And we wanted, that. We wanted it to be a mix. And so it was heavy and it was fast.
But it had melody.
Distorted, but it had melody. So naturally it was 91 and Nirvana had broke, so we kind of got clumped into this.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, is like, Soundgarden was pretty much the same way when they started out. It was heavy. I mean, it was like,
That's
it
a
was
perfect
heavy,
example.
it was sludgy,
Yep.
It had melody.
But it wasn't one thing. You wouldn't just call it metal.
No, well, that
It
was
was
the thing.
obviously
It's like,
metal influence.
Yeah.
But it wasn't rock and roll.
It wasn't punk.
Right, and it wasn't punk. So that was exactly what we were kind of hoping would happen.
Okay.
And that was when I met Troy Sanders. He was the bass player for that band,
Okay.
Answer and Ad. And that was the band we got to when our first show in Nashville.
Troy Sanders is Mastodon.
Mastodon's bass player, right.
Okay. Yep.
And then when we played our first show in Nashville, played at this small place called The Abyss that was an old service station that had been turned into a club. And we got hooked up with a band from Nashville called Buzzkill. And was it right? Yeah, Buzzkill. And that was Shelton's band. He was the drummer.
He played drums, yeah.
He played drums. He
Okay.
didn't even sing or play guitar yet.
All right.
In that band. He was just on drums. Knew him for about, it may have been up to a year before I even knew that he was Hank Jr.'s son.
Yeah, okay.
It was just Shelton Williams. And then when I found out, I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's Hank Sr.'s grandson. I was like, and I think I probably died. I was like, no, that's
There's
not.
no fucking way.
Everyone says.
But it's
something
funny, though,
like
because once you hear that, and then, like, it kind of starts sinking in, and you start looking at him,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know what? There is
Exactly
a
right.
bit of a,
it clicked. Like after that, I was like, then I felt like an idiot. I was like, he looked so much like his grandfather. I can't believe I didn't say, man, you look like Hank Williams. But it just didn't even cross my mind.
Sure.
And then at that show, that was an interest. That was I don't know what the word would be. It's like a milestone night in my life because not only it was a great show, and I met someone who would affect my life greatly. Phil Anselmo was there for some reason too.
Oh, really?
And this is just when Pantera had just hit.
Okay.
And I don't even know
This is still like 91, 92? Okay.
Yeah, about
All right.
91. Yeah, and I don't know if that's when he and Shelton met. I think they may have met that night, and then of
Okay.
course Shelton went on to be in Super Joint Ritual
Right.
with Phil Anselmo.
Yeah, and,
that
other one, I can't remember.
and
Arson
Arson Anthems. Yeah. So that was a good night, and Atlanta brought that to me. Brought Stevie T and the Tombstones. I can't say enough about that. Them. That album got as much play in my house as Black Flag,
Yeah.
or The Damned or anything else,
Yeah.
if not more. It was on my turntable always. It would only come off to put something else on, and when I was done with that record, it would go back.
It went.
Right there.
I got to listen to the Tombstones because I missed that era, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know Stevie now. He stayed at my house. I know his solo stuff, which is like,
What a talent.
yeah, it's so incredible.
So incredible.
So I got to go back and visit that stuff.
Yes, you do. He was so ahead of its time. He kind of had, never understand. And we all know bands that should be bigger than they are, but the fact that the Tombstones aren't just a common household name, at least in rock underground, is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
He was even signed to Sony for a second,
Really?
and it just didn't happen. But and Stevie T, I'm still working with him now. This
Right.
next record is going to be coming out on his label on
Okay.
Allco Music. And we still talk, and he gives me business advice, and of what I'm doing wrong, we collaborate on material.
Yeah.
Worst of Times, that one is doing very well. That song off the Inheritance record, the record I do.
Worst
with
of
the Inheritance,
Times
Pleasure
is my theme song.
That's your theme song. That's right. That's right. That's the one.
That's the theme song for
That's
closing
right.
time.
That is really catching on, and he and I co-wrote that one.
Awesome.
We wrote
Excellent.
that. I'm trying to nudge him into doing a whole record, some kind of Tombstone Vermillion thing.
Yeah.
You know, where we get together 6 songs, because between Box of Pine and Worst of Times, we've got a spark.
So he helped you guys collaborated on Box of Pine too?
No, he was nice enough to gives me credit, but no, he wrote that.
Oh, he wrote that.
He
Okay.
wrote that.
All right.
And he let me have it, and he never recorded it. It was technically a Tombstone song, but he never recorded it, and it was just sitting around, and he played it for me, and I was like, he sat right here on the sofa and played it for me, and I just looked at the guitar like I was like, it was just perfect, because I was telling him, at the time, this Black Eyed Vermillion didn't even have a name.
Yep.
I was just bugging all my friends, as you know,
Yeah.
to collaborate,
Sure.
Be like, hey man, come on, I really want to do this. And so he lived in Austin when I moved here, and so I was telling him, he's like, you should let me produce it, and he brought that song over, and I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
And since I took it and recorded it, started playing it live, and sort of popularized it, for lack of a better word, he's given me 25% of the publishing on it.
Okay, cool.
And so I'm getting a credit, but I did not pen one word from that. Unfortunately, I did pen Worst of Times, the lyrics and everything, and Hospital Caves on that record too. And I want to get together with him and do a whole record.
That'd be
but
awesome.
It's time.
That would be awesome.
It's a matter of time.
Well, okay, so back to Atlanta.
Back to
That's
ATL.
so you were in Atlanta for like 12 years, and that's when you're playing. You're getting to know Stevie Tombstone and the Tombstones and all that stuff, and you're in Knuckle.
I'm in Knuckle.
You're in Knuckle.
Yes.
And then you started another band with 2 of the guys.
Yeah.
From, that ended up going on to be Mastodon.
That's right. So we had a guitar player, Jeff Kircher, really nice guy. He quit. He was a guitar player for Knuckle, and he quit. He just decided didn't think it was going to happen. And we were auditioning guitar players. And we got another guy for a while. And he could play the old songs, but he couldn't write. And Brent moved to Atlanta from Alabama.
Okay.
From Mobile. And Birmingham, outside of Birmingham. And he and I hit it off, because we're gay and we're fashionistas, and we both had dreads, and so you have dreads, I have dreads. It must be cool, dude. Yeah. And I remember. Okay, so we sort of. Oh no, actually, he visited Atlanta. That's right. He knew some friends and came and hung out, and we met. And I was at the Nick in Birmingham with Knuckle, with the second guitar player. And we played a show, Wednesday night, probably about 7 people. And Brent was one of those people, that's right. And he came up afterwards and was asking, he was like, hey, do you want to jam, or you guys? And I was just like, well, it's funny you should mention that. We have this guitar player who's not working out. And he was like, well, I got this keyboard player that got to come with. And I was like, well, that's a little weird, but we can try, whatever. And he ended up moving to Atlanta. The keyboard player ended up going to jail, so that we didn't have to, so that didn't happen.
The keyboard player ended up in jail?
I guess it happens. He probably didn't admit that when he was in jail.
That usually seems to be drummers, but the keyboard player.
Must have been a great keyboard player.
Yeah.
So Brent moved to Atlanta, and I was like, dude, I really want you to try out for Knuckle. And he came down, and it was so great. I was like, no, this is not Knuckle. This is a new band.
Yeah.
This is not anything continual war. And we started 4 Hour Fogger was the band we were in together. And that was still Troy. So we still had Troy on bass and Brent on guitar. And Fogger was an attempt to be more underground than underground in the 90s, when underground music was at its peak.
Right.
The alternative 90s, when it was like, the coined phrase is like, I was listening to blah, blah, blah back in, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Everyone had to know more about underground music than anyone else, because underground music was becoming the mainstream.
Right,
so
exactly.
So we set out, we were going to be like no other band, and you were not going to be able to pinpoint us in one sound. And it kind of sounded like No Means No meets Neurosis.
Oh, wow.
It was, because it was really, how they get with their hooks,
Right.
Brent likes to get them fingers flying.
Yeah.
So it had this kind of quirky, peppy to it, but it was real heavy and tuned down. Just about, we had half the songs were tuned down to C, low C and drop C, and so it'd be real heavy.
Just a rubber band.
Yeah, like everything sounded like the Misfits on a slow on a record. And we were all, we were really into just so much. We lived and breathed music. It was insane. I mean, we would work selling music. We would get off work and go rehearse music. And then we would go from there to a show to see music, and of course listening to music on the way. It was just obsession with all forms of music.
I think that's what everybody goes through at some point.
They should. It should be the law.
It
should be the law. You should be. You should, from your 20s, no matter what you're doing, I don't care how career oriented you are, you should be forced to listen to just every single type of music. And so we would try and incorporate, and it'd be like, what are we doing today? And it's like, today let's take a pop song. Let's write a pop song. Of course, it wouldn't sound like a pop song, but then the next day it'd be like, well, I've been listening to Sleep a lot lately. Let's hit one note for an hour. You know? Listen to Jerusalem and be like, that one track, it's 59 minutes. Let's do that tonight. Yeah. And, sometimes we would get together, dude, and me and Brent, terrible potheads. We would just, maybe everybody wouldn't show up for practice. We get out the digital delay, pad, and he's a real good, he could do drums like tribal drums. Cool. Really good. Yeah. And I would just maybe make some noise, Mike Patton style, on the, looping. And then he would
did you have the growl yet?
Not quite, no. No? No, a little bit. I had the scream. Yeah. I had the grindcore kind of scream. Yeah. But no, I sounded, oddly enough, in that old stuff, if I can remember to get you some. Sometimes people say I sounded like Jello Biafra. It was really like, hi.
Shut
I'm
the
not
fuck
kidding.
up.
I'm not
Really?
kidding. Yeah. Standing on the future wealth of fiesta stain.
Wow. Oh, so yeah, is there any way to find this stuff?
Yes, I will burn you a copy. For
Okay,
sure.
can
Yeah,
anybody
you
else
should.
find it, or is it?
No, not yet. It's funny you should mention that. It is getting re-released, though.
Excellent.
Due to their popularity. Troy was nice enough to spend $500 of his own money to have the old tapes, the 2-inch tapes, because this is analog days.
Right.
Nothing was recorded digitally.
Of course.
And he found the tapes in his garage. And when they're that old, they're about to fall apart. So what you do is, it's a process, they literally bake it. They put it in a box with a light bulb. And they bake it, to get it just warm enough so it doesn't like fall apart, get all sticky or gooey or anything. And they give it one run, or you get two. They then hook it up to a machine and they record everything on it twice, and then it falls apart. And the tapes, they just dissolve.
Wow.
Yeah, they disintegrate. And so it's not cheap. It costs $500 to get that done.
That's fucking risky, too.
Yeah,
man.
it is.
You better
It
get
is.
it right.
Exactly. I could not do that job with being error prone.
I'd be terrified.
I would be too. Every time, God damn it, just got to do it. So we went and got that. We went and got those moved over to digital, and now that I'm done with my record, we're gonna just do a little remixing. Yeah. Make it sound, good, and then it's gonna be out. Yeah, next year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fucking
4-hour fogger.
That's awesome. So how long was 4-hour fogger?
About 5 years. It was basically
5 years?
Knuckle in 90 to 95, 4-hour fogger from 95 to 2000.
Okay. So what happened?
Oh, well, we were really at the will of our habits at that time. All right.
A lot of partying.
Yeah, way just really out of control.
Drugs.
Yes.
The good kinds.
All of them.
Yeah.
And some of us were into the bad kind, Some of us, I despise heroin and always have, But there were some of us
Same
that
here. Not my. Thankfully, never been my thing, and I've lost too many friends to it.
And that's the other thing, is like I've never been into, because I'm more hyper guy, and then so I'm just lucky that it didn't turn me on. I did try it, just smoking it once a long time, like when I was in my teen years, when you're trying to. And I was like, that's clearly not my thing. Yeah. But there's some of us it was their thing, And so we had 4-hour fogger had the darkest cloud of productivity, of non-productivity, over our head at all times. Yeah. I mean, somebody would be like, hey, we want to put out a single, and it's just, okay, it would never come together. Brent's guitar was always in hock, or, we just couldn't, we were kicked out of every single practice space in Atlanta. There was none left. It was always this series of shit going wrong, and nothing ever got done. And we did finally we had one single that Troy put out because he just got tired of it and did it himself. And then we did have a CD come out, but it came out on this label that wasn't even a real label. And after the guy had them made, he just kind of disappeared, and so we were stuck with the CDs. So it is very hard to find. But I'm very excited that's
excellent. That's a fucking that's a great story. story because
Yeah.
it comes back and it's it's gonna come. People are gonna
I'm
hear it.
fingers crossed. It is reasonable that we'll get a one-off show in Atlanta or something just for fun. Brent talks about it all the time.
No shit.
He
So
always
you guys are
talks
still
about it. Very tight.
Yeah, cool.
Very, very
Excellent.
close. Yeah, I don't know if I told you this actually, but I just did some vocals on their last record.
Oh, the one that just came out.
Yeah, Once More Around the Sun.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I did the chorus on this song Aunt Lisa. And
Fucking A.
I basically just annoyed the living shit out of them for the last 10 years until they let me do some goddamn vocals.
Yeah.
Every record it was like, yeah, next one, and then this one went by and almost did, and I got real mad, and I was like, God damn it, but I got lucky, and it was just at the tail end. Brent was leaving Nashville where they were recording, and his truck broke down, and so he had to stay, and it was good. He found some stuff that was wrong on playback. He was like, oh, we got to go in the studio again. So they were in the last day in the studio. And he just sent the files, 21st Century styles, sent the files over here to Curtis, and then we just went in, laid down a chorus, sent it back, boom, on a song
awesome.
for all time. It is great. And those guys they're just the best. There's not many people who deserve phenomenal success like they do, but they are grounded. They are involved in their community, not in silly political ways, but they're around. It's not a big deal to see them out. There's just no prima donna attitude.
Yeah.
They love what they have. I'm pretty sure they're surprised how far it's gone.
Yeah, well, that's. I mean, often when you have people who are pretty grounded, they hold that as like we're lucky to be here, and
absolutely,
we acknowledge that.
I mean, when they got started, they just Billy and Braun had just come out of Today Is the Day.
Okay.
And, Steve Austin is known as, a bit crazy, and they had this thing where, they both left. They were on drums and bass, and so they came back down to Atlanta, to start a band. And they were just basically originally, they would have been happy if they would have been as big as Neurosis or something.
Sure.
They were like, man, if we could just, we're actually making a living. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Then, 10 years later, what did you say? Grammy nomination? What?
Right.
Grammy?
Yeah,
what? It was just
kind of a big deal.
Oh, totally. That last record.
Yeah.
It went to number 6 on the Hard Rock charts, top 10. I think it may have actually peaked at number 1 for a day or two.
Wow.
Once More Around the Sun.
That's a fucking big deal.
It is. It is. And I love them. And they're going to be here next week, and I can't thank them enough for letting me do that. But back then, Brent was just a mess. We were all a mess in our life. I was drinking. I worked at a job.
What was your
my choice?
Big one was just
alcohol.
drinking
alcohol. It was straight up alcohol. I was lucky enough to have this job at this really awesome store called the Junkman's Daughter that basically allowed me to drink at work.
Okay.
Not blatantly.
Yeah.
But it was like, hey, as long as the registers aren't coming up short and you're showing up on time and you're not calling up sick, right, fine, do what you want.
Yeah.
The owner was this wonderful woman named Pam, and she was not a hippie per se, but she was from the 60s and 70s and had a lot of wild things. So she was just real like, as long as the work's getting done, just be cool. So for a year and a half, I drank every single day, all day. It was Bushmills was my weakness. And I would just I would go next door to the liquor store next door. That didn't help. Or you go next door. I get a can of Sprite, pour 3/4 of the Sprite out, fill it up with Bushmills, and and I thought I was smooth for years. Years I thought I was smooth, and then people started noticing. They're like, "Boy, you sure have been drinking that same Sprite for a long time." I would just refill the same can like an idiot,
Yeah.
And they got onto me one day. I thought I was gonna. The manager was this woman named Suzanne, one of my best friends in the world, and I was working with her at the register, and I was, I had my Sprite can there, and we were really busy. She was working the register, and I was next to her, like bagging stuff. It was like Christmas season or something, and I spilled my drink, and it spilled onto. Like when you get something delicate, they wrap it in tissue paper.
Yep.
It spilled on that, which absorbed it, and the smell of whiskey was just like overbearing. Just like everyone was just like, whoa, that dude's lit. And right with my boss, right next to me. And I just was like, I was just froze. And it got real awkward for 1 second. And then she just winked at me and smiled and went right back to work. And it never, ever came up again.
Awesome.
But yeah, so I was allowed to drink at work, and we were just going out. We worked in clubs, so we didn't really have to pay for any shows because you knew everyone and all the different clubs, and we just nothing ever got done. So in 1999. My mother-in-law lived in Arizona and wanted us to move out there, and we were like, well, we need to get out of here. And Arizona was like, pretty boring. And back then the bars even closed at 1 in Arizona.
Oh,
all
really?
of them.
Wow.
Yeah, they weren't even open till 2. And we had come from Atlanta where the bars closed at 4.
Right. That's a big fucking difference.
And there was
You're just getting started at 1
That's right.
o'clock,
That's
what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the first time we went out to a bar, we got there, we got probably 11:45 or something like that. We had like 1 beer, and all of a sudden the lights come up, and they're like, "Last call." We're like, "What?
What the fuck?
What are you fucking talking about?" And then we're like, "Well, where are we going from here?" And people were with like, "Nowhere. There is. Yeah, we're going home. That's it."
God.
And it was it would have sucked being there in my 20s or my teens for that, but for what we needed, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Because we'd go out and we, still make it home by 1:30 and.
So basically, like, because of the lack of productivity and just what's seeming to be like a downward spiral.
That's right.
Of fucking drinking and partying and fucking drugging. You and Zoe, your wife, were like, we got to get out of here.
We got to get out of here. And I remember when I told Brent, he was so displeased with me. He still he still brings it up.
Really?
He does. Sometimes you get a couple drinks in him. And, why'd you quit? Like when I was talking
What
with
are
him.
you complaining?
Yeah, I know. When I was talking to him about the mixes for the, the remixes for the record, he was, he's like, man, admit it. He's like, if you wouldn't have left, 4 Hour Fog would still be together. You know it. You know it's true.
That's got to be kind of satisfying, though. Man.
Yeah,
it
is.
That's like, because it's your buddy saying,
That's
like,
right.
I still miss being buddies.
That's right.
We
still... They let me come up on stage a couple years ago and do Blood and Thunder with them. And, because Neil Fallon sings on the record. The singer for Clutch sings on the record. And so they let me do his parts live. And it's just, he still loves, when we get on stage and, we lean up against each other, it's like, it's still there.
It's still there.
The
That's
spark.
awesome, man.
It is. It's every reason why we do it. I love being on stage with him, big or small.
That's awesome.
And it is great when he's just like 4 Hour Fogger. I love it. I love it. And he takes it with him.
That's killer.
Everywhere he goes.
So how long were you in? Where were you at in Arizona? Did you go to Phoenix?
We were outside of Phoenix and Chandler.
Okay.
Boy, I stayed there about 3 years, and you know what? It actually really did the trick. It was like
kind of dry you out.
Totally did. We got some more, shall we say, like adult behavior patterns. Like we would, I, as still drink a good bit.
Sure.
But we got a rope on it. We would only go to shows every now and then. We didn't work in bars anymore. So that's also the.
How
big
long
thing.
have you and Zoe been together?
17 years we've been married.
Wow.
20 years together.
Wow.
Yep.
No shit.
Yes, sir.
Good on you.
Yes, sir.
Good on you.
Yes, sir. We're going for the big long haul.
Yeah, man.
And that was, another, of course, one of the many reasons. That's why I owe so much to Atlanta, and Georgia. That's why we named our daughter Georgia.
Georgia May.
Because we were she was married in Georgia, and we were married in May.
Yeah, she was born in Georgia.
She was born in Georgia. That's right.
Married in May.
And that's right. She was no. That's right. No, we were married in Georgia.
Okay.
And yes, we met in Georgia, and we were married in May.
There you go.
All
right. Awesome. That's
was-
such a fucking cool story, man. I love that. I love that that's your daughter's name. That's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
She is. You showed me a picture of her yesterday. She's fucking gorgeous,
yeah,
man.
she's
How old is she
coming
now?
along. She's 3.
Yeah.
She's 3. Yeah, we had a kid late, 42.
Hey.
But it was good. We settled down in Phoenix. Really did that. And then after Phoenix, we went to Los Angeles for about 3 years. And we stayed. That city's pretty easy in your 30s to be good in, too, because going out kind of sucks. Getting there where traffic's really bad.
Yeah.
If there's a show in Long Beach, it's an hour and it's like over an hour to just get there. And so,
Sure.
so we stayed good there, and then.
Why LA? Just same reason everybody goes to LA?
Let's see.
Were
Were
you doing music in Phoenix or outside Phoenix?
Not in Phoenix because, we had talked about leaving Atlanta earlier than we did, but I never did because I was in a band. Because I was always in a band. And I was
Right.
like, I'm not leaving this band.
Right.
I love
Yeah.
it. And when we got to Phoenix, I was like, I am not starting a band here because I'm not staying in this city.
Okay.
We did
So
not
you
want to stay.
You knew that
Oh,
that
yeah.
wasn't.
No.
yeah.
We went with like a kind of a migrant frame of mind. We were going just for a while until we figured where else. I wanted to go to Los Angeles. I don't remember exactly why. I used to not care for Los Angeles. And for some reason, when I saw The Big Lebowski, it made me like Los Angeles.
No shit.
I'm not kidding.
The dude.
The dude made me like, yeah, I kind of like Los Angeles. It made me think of that. And I would go out there for work, and I kind of dug. I love the weather, and I love the beaches. I'm kind of a beach guy, even though I'm from Chicago. I don't know why. And
That's cool.
I think I wanted to maybe get. I was working in radio in Phoenix. I went to a radio communications school. It's just a strip mall school where you go and it's really $5,000 for a piece of paper that means nothing.
So you were a radio guy for a
Yes, KFNX AM 1100 news at top bottom of the hour.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what did you do?
I did weather and traffic, and I was a board op, and it was all talk radio. It was an AM radio station, and half the shows were, came in from somewhere else, or we recorded in the studio, or they were right there. And I ran the boards and did weather and traffic at top and bottom of the hour.
That's awesome.
Doing weather in Phoenix is really easy. It's 114 degrees every fucking day.
It's hot, folks.
It would drive me. I was like, I gotta say something different. I gotta say it's. I don't know. I couldn't. You run out quick.
Yeah.
But traffic was always the same, and weather was always the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ran the boards, and I think I had aims on getting into radio in California.
Okay.
But that didn't really happen because I got this other awesome job working for some friends, Magnus and Karen Walker. They had a clothing company called Serious Clothing. Real rock wear, like glam wear. It was like, like stretch jeans and
Okay.
and you had total rocker wear. Now, mind you, this is in 2003.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Was that even like?
Yeah, it was. And
The sunset scene was kind of.
It was waning just by 15 years or so. No, it was, and that was funny. That was the thing. They brought me on, and the owner, was like, "No, we need to get things back up to where they were." And I remember telling him point blank, I was like, "Until rock dominates the pop, has a greater share of the pop market like it did in late '88, then business is never going to go back up."
Yeah.
But he gave me a job, and I was a sales rep, and it was just awesome. Just two of the coolest people you ever met. There were a couple, and he was from England, and she was from Atlanta. That's how I knew her. And they gave me a job there, and I would do sales, but I would also do stuff on the side for a little extra money. One of the things that I would do is I would be what's called a site rep. Okay, now they had a warehouse that was 2 floors. Downstairs was the work. Upstairs was looked like a medieval palace. It was really fancy. They spent a lot of money fixing it up, and they didn't live there anymore because it was too hot, and it would be like $60,000 to get it air conditioned. So it was just a film set. They made most of their money renting out the upstairs of this, and people would come in and shoot films there. It's a whole industry in California, in Hollywood, I should say. You even have people who just find sites. And so now I would be the site rep, which means I got to stand on there and boss even the director. Like I would,
this is my place.
Right, exactly right.
Okay.
I would be like, all right, those need... you can't scratch the floors, and those lights over there need tennis balls on the bottom of them, and and I would, and everything would have to go through me. It was kind of fun. Now, every now and then, it would be a movie, a big movie, or a video, but most of it, the vast majority of it,
I think I know where you're going with this.
and I mean 99% was porn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I was the site rep for this place where they would film porn. That became my norm.
No shit.
Was watching porn get made.
Oh, wow.
And I've always kicked myself for not.
It's a hard job.
Yeah. Hey. Oh. I will always kick myself for not keeping a journal because the stories, it'd be about a 14-hour day. Usually, you'd get there in the morning, it'd be the last one leaving at night, lock it up, and the next day I'd come and tell everyone the stories about what just had happened that before. And it would be anything from let's see, last night was 2 chicks, 6 dicks, and they'd be yeah, and then when they were in between takes, they'd stop, and incidentally, what a fluffer is? That's a myth. That industry is dead.
I gotta figure that out.
That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I know because I wanted more. No, I'm kidding. But there's no fluffer. So, in between sets, when the director's talking to the quote talent, he would be like, beating his dick against like the wall to kind of keep it erect. Yeah. And just, but not even thinking. Like while just looking at the end, be like, okay, so you think I should maybe bend her over the car this time?
Yeah.
Thump, 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 thump.
That's so fucking weird, you know. But I mean, it makes sense. It
does.
I think it makes sense.
That was great.
It's just a fucking.
That was a great job. I did that for about 2 years, and you know, you get prima donnas, you get these, you know, girls come in and think they're really great, and you know,
Any of the famous ones.
There was one who was I was told was famous, but I didn't know she was on an album cover for I think Blink 182 or one of those bad poppy, you know, supposedly punk bands, one of those mainstream bands, and she was on the cover for it, and. I remember everyone said, that's so-and-so, and I was like, oh, great. I don't listen to that, and I don't watch porn, so I don't know what you're talking about, but that's awesome. Yeah. Other than that, no real famous people, but it's very surreal watching the filming of a porn. I mean, we've all seen porn, and we've all had sex, but it's like, when you have these other people, at first, you know, it's like, this is so weird. I'm watching people have sex. Because I've never been to a live sex show in Tijuana or Amsterdam or anything, you know?
Yeah.
Only people I've watched having sex are me and the several other people that are in the room. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what, to hear, to stand back, and they're so clinical.
Yeah.
You know, and looking at it with like this artistic eye, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's very surreal. You know, and
I mean, it is theater.
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a film.
I would watch them trying to remember their lines or doing lines and like trying to actually act. And dude, there was everything from, like, if Hustler was making one, it would be a total production crew, boom mics.
Have you seen? You know, what is it? Pirates. They had this. I think it was the most expensive porno ever filmed.
Really?
And it looks like it's like you're watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but they're fucking. You know what I mean? And it's actually I watched it's the first, I think possibly the only porno I've ever watched all the way through, because it's fucking it not only is it epic, but it's downright hilarious.
Wow.
They ham it up.
Right.
It's actually funny.
That's great.
And it's, you know, and
the new
the
face
women
of
are
porn.
hot, and it's good quality.
We would have everything from that to a dude showing up with a video camera and two people, you know, just going at it.
Yeah.
You know, everything and everything in between. Yeah. Sometimes there'd be like a theme and people be dressed up like vampires, you know, and they'd have, you know, some plot around that. But that was a really good job. And so that kept me out there. The radio thing didn't have, but then I got the big call from Hank.
Yeah, so I was going to say, at what point did
it was when I was on,
meet?
2000. Well, he asked me to come on board in 2004.
Okay.
I was out in California, and I was like, "What? You know, I'm all out
here."
You
guys had kind of stayed in contact this whole time?
Entirely.
So, okay.
Totally stayed. Yeah, we stayed pretty close. Every time he came through a city I was in, you know, we go to the show and hang. And
so you guys are buds.
Yes, right. Just like with Brent, we stayed in touch. We stayed close. And I remember what happened when he played in Phoenix one year. Even though I wasn't going to start a band, I was just oozing music. I had to have something, you know, just to do something. And a guy I worked with had a studio, and he was getting it set up. So he was like, you know, I got to learn how to do this. It's, you know, Pro Tools. He's like, if you want to bring some stuff over and scream, you know, it'll really help me. Yeah. So I had a friend in Atlanta who was a metal guy. He was also like a kind of a technological genius guy. And I called him up. Have you ever heard of Agoraphobic Nosebleed? They were this band on Relapse that I found that their CD was 33 minutes long. It had 99 tracks. Most of the songs were 4 seconds or 6 seconds long.
Holy shit.
Sample-laden drum machine. Just like, and Altered States of America, I could not listen to it enough. I just listened to it and saying. So I called this friend of mine in Atlanta and was like, hey, Sam, you know, I know you work with drum machines and you do stuff like that. I'm sending you this stuff. I want you to just throw me some stuff without vocals and to me. And he did. Yeah. And he sent me a bunch of songs, and, you know, they were like 15 seconds long or whatever, 20 seconds. I went through some vocals, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to use this when I start a band wherever I go to now. It's like a demo.
Like a
this is what I'm into.
Yeah, this is what I sound like. This is what I do.
So I was playing it. So Sheldon came to town, and then we were in the back after the show, and I was like, dude, I want to check this out. This is some of the shit I'm doing. It's pretty hardcore, man.
Yeah.
Some of the most brutal shit out there. And we listened to it. He's like, wow, it was really great. Then about a year and a half, and it was really fortuitous that I did that, because he was under the impression that I was done with music.
Yeah.
And he even said, he's like, really? You're still keeping... I was like, dude, I haven't lost the dream, man. I would like to be touring 9 months out of the year. And he was like, and Zoe's cool with that? And he's like, and she was like, yeah, she was right there. He was like, that's what she signed up for. She knew that was the dream. It's not dead yet. Yeah. And so if I hadn't have said that or brought that little project, he would have gotten a different singer when he decided to have a singer for Assjack.
Yeah.
And I never would have gotten that job because he actually did. He had another singer, this guy Billy, real nice guy from Lincoln, Nebraska, was singing, and Billy had these amazing pipes. He had a great grind, but he did not move at all. Like Mike on the mic stand, not move.
Just stoic and staring
and screaming and hitting the parts.
Yeah.
Great voice, deserved the job, but. So I just happened to make mention to Shelton when we were hanging out afterwards, and I played this stuff for him. I was like, dude, that guy's really nice, but I could do like a way, way, way better job, right? And he was like, and that's when he said, oh, you're still in, really? You into touring? I was like, that's what I want, yeah. And then about a year later, that kid, I got lucky. That kid, he had a girlfriend who was like, you either going to school and getting your life together or what. And so he quit the band to get a life, school that he ended up quitting anyway.
Yeah.
And then I got the call, and that was in 2004. And that was, I can't tell you what that gave me. I mean, not just the fact that I was like, okay, I could cross off the list, professional musician. I was actually going to get paid to do something I love. Yeah. You know how it is when you start out doing that. That's that's very rare that anyone even makes it to that tier.
Right.
So Sheldon gives me this, and I'm now finally going to get paid to see the world.
Right.
But besides that, he gave me something that I'll never be able to repay him for in any way, shape, or form. He gave me this peace of mind that was like, okay, I did do the right thing. It was right to get into this. I didn't waste all of my 20s. And you got to remember, at this time, Mastodon was just starting to get big.
Oh, yeah. So
and
you have that in the back of your head.
That's right. And it was hard.
Watching these guys.
I still loved them. We were all still close, but I was just like, I was sitting there thinking, was I dragging the last band down? With you always hear about the bands before the big bands.
Sure.
And you're like, were they just really geniuses and I was holding them back, in some way?
Yeah. I think that's a natural thing. I think that's
you got to question it.
Yeah, I think everybody does that.
And I think you should, because I don't think you should just be like, a lot of people be like, no, they won't even consider the fact that, it was them or, that it was like that. So I basically, he gave me this peace of mind. That's what it was, man. Peace of mind. And for that, I'll be in his debt for all time.
Yeah.
It made me say, okay, I haven't totally wasted my life. I had a calling. Even if this is all it gets me, it was all worth it, and I feel like I did the right thing.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, to this day, even though, Assjack is pretty much done, unofficially, but it doesn't look like he's ever going to bring it back, people still ask me every now and then about, like Mastodon, and like, is it hard to, when they're like David Letterman and stuff, I'm like, no, it's not, because of Shelton, because of Hank.
Yeah.
I got what I wanted. When I was a teenager, I had the same adolescent dream that most people have to be like a rocker in a hardcore band and go around and have great shows, and I got it.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't have had that, I feel pretty certain that I'd be a much more bitter person now. I'm sure I'd be depressed. Because how it is when people have that. Like the guy who dropped the ball in the big game in high school, and they're like, oh, that's when I lost my confidence. And they try and put everything, and that's why I have a bad job now.
Yeah.
And that's why my kids hate me, because I dropped the ball when I was 12.
You fixate on
you
stuff
fixate,
like that.
right, you blame, And because of Shelton bringing me on board, I don't have that,
That's awesome.
And it's really great.
Well, okay, so you jumped aboard with that, and now I've seen how that guy tours.
Yeah,
and I also know from just other people that have worked with him, because I'm friends with a lot of you guys,
right?
That there was also a tendency of getting a call saying, "Hey, in 2 weeks we're going to be gone for 6 months."
That's exactly. Well, maybe not that
not
extreme,
6 months,
but I have gotten a 2-week call. Oh yeah. Tours have been booked with only 3 weeks notice, which is insane at his level of professionalism. I mean, I can't believe that people would even answer the phone. It's like, these are theaters usually, they have stuff booked.
Yeah.
You know, and at that level, most people book at least 6 months out. At our level, people book 6 months out.
I was going to say, even at our level, we're doing it.
That's the norm. Nobody books less than that. But yeah, he would, and the other side of that would, he would also disappear on us, you know?
Really?
Now, I mean, we knew where he was, not that kind of disappear, but, you know, I'm in Austin, he's in Nashville. And he would just like, we didn't do one show in 2007, and I wasn't told that was happening. In 2006, we, end of the year, last tour in November, Shelton was like, okay, we're going to be recording at the end of December, and then, you know, next year will be normal. And then nothing for a whole year.
Just crickets.
And he wouldn't answer my calls, and he wouldn't get back or texts or emails or anything.
That's got to be really frustrating.
It's extremely frustrating. I'll tell you what, because like, well, for instance, he said we were going to be recording in December, and so I had both families, my wife's family and my family, putting all of their Christmas plans on hold, waiting for word of when I was going to be, you know, going to Nashville. So, you know, I would call. I just need a yes or no. Just text me a no. N-O, 2 letters. Just do it.
Yeah.
And it never came. You know. And then all of a sudden, at the end of 2007, and you know, get a call. We're going to be gearing up.
That's gotta be really hard.
It's hard.
I mean, not only just for that, but like on the marriage, it's got to be pretty hard.
It is, but you know, at the time, first off, I have the most incredible road wife of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, there's supportive, but then there's always like this, like you're out, you know, okay, have a good tour. I'm really happy this is happening for you. Then 6 months later, you're out on tour and you call and there's quiet and they're not talking and there's distance and you're like, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. You know, and you know that there's never happened with her. She is just amazing like that. And
She's
so,
in it.
yeah. And so we also didn't have any children yet, you know, and the money was good. You know, so she was always, she knew it was, I guess, like being married to a firefighter or something. It was like, I'm going.
You're a package deal.
That's right. Got to go.
Yeah.
And she handled it really great.
That's awesome.
For sure.
All right, so you're in Assjack for how many years?
I guess it was about 7. I think we stopped after like 2011.
Okay.
Roughly, my first shows I think may have been in 2005, but roughly between there and then Sheldon moved on to ADD, which is the thing he does now where he used to do Assjack. And I hear he's still just a driving music
How did you take the news?
workhorse.
Like, how did you take the news? Like,
I didn't. I wasn't told.
You were told.
No.
It was just like him disappearing. Just that's it.
I started getting calls one year from my friends in Atlanta, and our texts saying, "Hey, dude, you're gonna be here on my birthday, and dude, when are you getting into town?" And I was just like,
"Wow,
I'm not. What are you talking about?" And it clicked pretty quick with me because Joe Buck never got any, you know, walking papers either.
Yeah.
He just got replaced, and so I had watched that happen, and so I was like, everyone thinks I'm coming to Atlanta. Why would they think that? Because Hang 3's probably coming to Atlanta online. I see a tour booked.
Yeah.
You know, and then that was it. And I shot him a text. He didn't get back to me. I shot him another one. And this is what Zoe was now pregnant.
Okay.
And the only thing he shot back was, mostly going to be doing doom and gloom on this one. Hang with the fam. And then that was it. I was out.
Wow.
And I of course, you know, I hated it. You know, I was really sad that it was over because I loved it
Right.
so much. I loved it so much. I never wasted a moment. I took
Well,
any of it
also
for
the
granted.
fans loved it a lot.
We had some good connections.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that
you
was
were-
what Sheldon wanted originally. He wanted like a David Yao. You know, he's like jumping around and, you know,
Yeah.
I admit it, you know, I was a bit of a cheerleader because it was all his lyrics and his music. But
Well, still,
I didn't
though.
care, though,
Yeah.
because I was screaming.
Well, that's the
And
thing, too,
jumping
man. It's
and-
like you were to a lot of people, and this is coming from a lot of people who said this. You were the reason why anybody was even interested in Assjack.
People have said that to me, and it always just, it
I'll
makes
be
my
honest
week.
with you, a lot of people don't really like
That's right.
the Assjack stuff,
true.
but you were the reason people fucking liked it.
Gave him some, you know, I did like it, and you know, we always knew, you know, everyone's there for the country, the most people, you know,
Yeah.
and we were fine with that, you know. Instead of being bummed about how many people left, we were always excited about how many people stayed.
Yeah.
You know, and because we knew that they were truly hardcore.
Right.
You know, and not just hardcore Hank 3 fans, but they were truly like hardcore people and they loved hardcore music.
Right.
You know, and, you know, a lot of times, there were some times where we'd keep a crowd through the whole thing, and there were some times where it's even down to, you know, less than 40 people.
Yeah.
I played at the Rinky Dink Roadhouse to one person.
Wow.
In somewhere in Pennsylvania, somewhere in your territory there, the Rinky Dink, yeah. It was an old style place, sawdust floors, real small, mechanical bull in the
I wonder
corner.
if that place even realized what they were.
They did. They did.
did?
Oh
They
yeah,
did?
they were like they were trying to get him here forever. It was really off the path.
All right.
It was on the side of the road, nowhere for the bus to park practically, you know, and there was like maybe 45 people, you know, and the closest city was, I don't even know how close.
Right.
And they were there for the country, and then when they were done, they left, and then 3 people stayed for Assjack, and 2 of them left. They were a couple, and the one dude who stayed though,
Yeah.
the one guy, never forget him. He had long curly hair, just like Chris Cornell. Stayed in his face at the time. He was mesmerized, and he pissed himself right there. We were from the stage. We all watched him just let go and just urinated.
Wow.
And his life was made because no music like this ever came this close to his house.
Yeah.
You know, but it didn't matter. You know, because
That's awesome.
I just loved the fact that I was actually getting paid to go around and scream my head off.
Yeah.
And connect with these people.
Yeah.
And
You're a born front man.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
a born
you, thank
front
you.
man.
Thank you.
Honestly, you know
hyper.
what I mean. But it's not just that. It's not just that. I was really impressed. First of all, I knew of you before I knew you. I'd seen
really?
you play with Assjack.
Oh, of course.
You know, and I had met you, and you were like completely the opposite personality-wise than I was expecting.
yeah, people always say that to me.
A lot of people.
Do they
feel that
think?
way.
Do they think I'm going to be a lot? And I understand why people think that I'm a cokehead because I'm really hyper.
Sure.
But when they say that, it's like, what is it that people were thinking? They think I'm going to be like a G.G. Allen douchebag type? Or?
No, I think what it is they probably think that you're going to be, you know, probably more along the lines of. And I don't know this guy outside of his music, but like Phil Anselmo, where it's just kind of like, you know, the real cockshirt, fucking like kind of standoffish, kind of always looking at somebody. Not really. I think that's what a lot of people would think when they see you on stage.
That makes sense.
And off stage, you're fucking, you know, you're fucking drunk, but you're fucking, you're a social fucking butterfly. You're super friendly, super embracing, super easy to talk to.
I like people.
You know what I mean? And it shows. And it's just like, holy fuck, this guy's actually rad.
Yeah.
But, and it wasn't just that, but what really impressed me was when I finally heard Eyed Vermillion.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
this.
That was great.
This.
I can't believe we got it together.
So let's talk about that. How did this come about?
Black Eyed came about. Black Eyed.
That was still while you were with Shelton, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Black Eyed Vermillion had been trying to get out of me since the mid '90s.
Now Black Eyed Vermillion. This is a character. This is a persona.
This is a person. Yes. It's a character. He's Black Eyed Vermillion is this character that comes to life with the striking of the first chord of a show, and then just leads a big strong life, and then dies after fairly long, the last song of every show, and then just goes off into the abyss. And he had been trying to get out of me since the mid '90s. I distinctly remember there was a band in Atlanta called the Rent Boys, and they were like a pub rock, kind of like Pogue's early Clash, drinking and distorted, but not straight punk. And they had amazing shows. And they did an acoustic version with a banjo of a Misfits song, Astro Zombies. They put it out on a single, and just banjo. And they had this girl singing, so it sounded a lot like Man You Don't Meet Every Day by the Pogues, the Kid O'Riordan sings. And it was so good. And that's the one, All I Want Tonight. They did it real slow. And I listened to that over and over. And I made a tape with the song on it over and over again on the first side. So I could just press play and it would go for a half hour again and again and again.
Old school looping.
That's right. I loved it so much. And that was when Black Eyed Vermillion was truly born. I'm not even kidding. Because at that moment, I was like, I want to do something that's punk, and because I was also obsessed with Irish music at the time. We all were. Clancy Brothers and the Dubliners, and pub songs, and so, but I didn't. The thing was that I couldn't start a band like that in Atlanta for a couple reasons. Lots of different kinds of music that are popular now weren't popular yet. Like this whole punk country thing. They're really good. So there wasn't anyone who played banjo. I didn't know anyone who played accordion or violin.
That's how it was for me in Milwaukee as well.
It was just rock.
Yeah.
Atlanta's a rock and roll town. And I could start as many rock bands as I wanted, but to do anything that sounded more traditional or just that's veered from that wasn't even a possibility. So it stayed in me, and then the next thing that happened that made it come to life was Shelton. Being lucky enough to tour, besides being an Assjack and getting to scream my head off, I got the best seat in the house at the best show on the planet every night of the tour. I would go in. I didn't have to be there till the end of the set for Assjack, at first, but I would still be there first song, and I would watch every song, and just because I was like, I just loved it, the music so much. And when he first switched over to country straight, originally, his sets were all three types of music. He'd do a country song, then maybe a hillbilly song, then a country song, maybe a punk song. He'd mix it up. Once he segregated it and he put out Lovesick, Broken, Driftin', and I saw that punks could, play pretty, I was like, it inspired me. I wasn't scared. Also, I had issues with my voice. I was only a punk singer. Like, I could just scream. There was no chance to sing, really. Yeah. But as I got older and I started practicing more and I saw Shelton doing it and I sing, it just, Eyed Vermillion slowly came out of me. On tour, it was Joe Buck who got tired, just sick and tired of hearing me whine about how I can't get this thing started. Another thing that happened that made it come to fruition was Bob Wayne, actually. I got to give props to him. And indirectly, he was our guitar tech. That was how he got his big break.
Right.
He was our guitar tech for a few years. Great guy, as everyone knows. And he started playing songs for Andy Gibson, and I remember we were going to Seattle, which is basically where he was from. And he asked Shelton if he could open, and Shelton said yes, without any band. He didn't have a band that knew these songs. He called some friends and had a band together, and then by that night. Yeah. And I had been sitting here for like 10 years.
Bob can pull some shit like that, man. He's a fucking,
he got it together.
He's crafty.
So I was whining, and we had a day off. It was in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I was whining. I was like, I can't even get this thing together. Bob just called some friends. And finally, it was a day off, and I just put a guitar in Joe Buck's hand. Joe Buck was like, we're doing this now.
Yeah.
And we just started by covering. We covered like a Howlin' Wolf song, and I think a Jimmy Reed song or something like that. And right there on the bus, on the Mac, and we did My Baby Caught the Train, and it went really well. And so he said, okay, after one of these next upcoming tours, don't go home. You come and stay. This is when he lived with Andy Gibson. You come and stay with us for 7 days. And when we're going to do whatever you want to do. And so at the time, I'm not kidding. I really only had planned to start a cover band. I was going to do blues versions of punk songs and punk versions of blues songs.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll take a Muddy Waters song, make it real fast. Take an Angry Samoan song, to make it real slow. Yeah. And that's all we were going to do.
Okay.
I got to their house, and Joe said his exact words were, "Oh, fuck that." He's like, he was like, "I'm not doing that."
That sounds like him.
He's like, "No, that's stupid. I'm not doing that." I remember the day I forced him to learn. I think it was Iron Fist. It was a Motorhead song. And I forced him to learn this song, and he was just miserable.
Yeah.
He was so mad.
Yeah.
And he was like, and we listened to it afterwards, and I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, this sounds amazing. He's like, why do you want to neuter this? I remember that exact word, neuter.
Yeah.
He felt like I was neutering a Motorhead song. Wow. And so he made me do originals. And so
good on him.
Yeah. And so we started just creating right there on the spot. And I would write lyrics during the day, and we would record in the afternoon and evening. And I believe 3 of the songs ended up being on the first record on Hymns for Heretics.
Wow.
Helping Hand, which, the Gallows covered.
Yeah.
That was on the spot, you know,
Yeah.
and it's one of my favorite songs, and so.
That's fucking cool.
So then we did that, and then years went by, and just like how our paths crossed, at that Hang 3 show, in Nashville, I would just keep bugging my friends, as I still do. This is still how my records get made. I bug my friends to throw me hooks.
Yeah.
I just give me 2 hooks. 2 hooks is a song. I'll arrange it.
Yeah.
If there's any bridges, I'll come up with the bridge. I'll write the lyrics, and I'll take care of all that. And every song I have on every record is pretty much that way, done that way. And I get to it when I get to it, and I wait. And I have a pool of half-done songs and demos, and it's always a matter of which one I'm feeling, which one's coming along. And because of that, see, Eyed Vermillion doesn't have a solid cast. It's not a band like the Gallows where we have the same lineup.
Right.
Curtis, the bass player, he's the only, member who's always involved. He's the only actual member.
But I actually, I met Fritz and Johnson, Whiskey Dick, as they're called, years ago in Dallas, or somewhere just outside of Dallas. We did a show with them, and they were telling me that they play with you, Eyed Vermillion.
Yes.
So I mean, they've been pretty steady though.
Yeah. Oh, they're.
I mean, they got their own thing. Whiskey Dick is their that's their.
We are kind of holding them back now. Actually, they have. We're not sure if we're going to be able to do any touring next year because they're out there. They're out there like 6-7 months out of the year.
They're definitely doing it.
They're making a living at it.
Yeah.
And I because I'm a child, I don't have a van or anything. I have these restraints here. I can't make it out. So next year. That was a real blessing. That was another chapter where it started to get real because I moved to Texas, and so once I got the recordings, I had this thing, but I could only use it as like a demo. I couldn't get a band together here in town.
Yeah.
And once again, it was Joe Buck. Joe Buck was coming through on tour. He called me up and he said, "I want you to do the Texas dates with me. You'll just come up and so we'll sing like 4 of your songs and it'll be fun." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, it sounds like a great idea." And I came out, and the first show, Whiskey Dick opened up for us.
Yeah.
And the last show was somewhere close to Fort Worth, and they came out to that one, and then they came out to the Austin show, and it was like I saw it as soon as they made it to the Austin. I was like, and I was like reticent because they live in Fort Worth. They live 3 hours away.
Yeah.
And I was like, but then I won't be able to do shows all the time. But then I was like, well, that might be a blessing actually. And so I talked to them. They started driving down. They didn't want any money. They just did it for the love of the game. And at first, my vision was to just have the 3 of us, cut out the cost, get out there on the road, be able to do it in a truck. And although the first sessions went really great, it was pretty clear to everybody that the it factor just wasn't there yet.
Okay.
It just didn't have that.
Didn't it feel like all the parts?
Yeah,
were there?
it just didn't. It felt thin, and I knew these songs weren't thin, and. So we got a bass player, we got a drummer, this guy Bircho Birch, who had played on Box of Pine. And Stevie T told me to ask Curtis. Curtis was already in like 2 other bands or something, and I was like, man, we really, really need to just play one. And then he told us he was in the band after the show. We had our first show was opening for National Pussy and Scott Byram.
Okay.
And National Pussy called their opener, had to leave the tour, and they were coming to town. They were like, "Do you want?" I was like, "Yeah." So I threw the.
Did you know them from Atlanta?
I knew that. Yeah, they're Atlanta crew.
Yeah.
Okay. They're old friends, and so Curtis. I asked him to do it. At the time, we were also a sit-down band. I wanted to be a sit-down blues band like Howlin' Wolf. And Curtis came and played. And afterwards, he's like, "I'm in." It's like, yes, you are.
That's awesome.
And yeah. And then so now we have this revolving cast. Like every time if we have a show coming up, I go through the list and call, my guitar players, bass, who's in town, who's on tour, who's ever around. And as you've seen, it can go up to like that time we played at Holy Mountain, you can go up to 8, 9 people.
I've seen you with 3 people. I've seen you with 4 people. I've seen you,
8 or 9. As many we can fit on stage.
Yeah.
I would love to have it like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, how many did you have with you at Farm Fest this year?
That was 6. Well, let me think. We even had a kid fly in. So we had 2 guitar players, bass, drums, mandolin, accordion, 7.
7 people.
Singing.
There you
7
go.
people up
That's
there, and it was great. Yeah, it's grown out. Dylan's kind of the same thing. Our accordion player, he came, was just like really interested in being in. His energy just lit up the room every time. But he can't do every show because he has a band called That Damn Band, and they play out a bunch too. So, every show is going to be a little different. I love that, and that's also good because from being in bands in the past, people can get sick of each other.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, man.
and they can sometimes never talk again. That doesn't really happen with this because everyone's, it's been a while since I've done. Yeah, I'd love to. So it stays fresh.
Yeah, that's great.
Well,
it's not just your live thing too, because the album that you did with the Inheritance,
yes,
is a whole nother monster. That's a whole nother band.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes, they're a band on their own.
They're basically broke up now.
Okay, they're an Austin-based band.
They were an Austin-based band. They're just great, man. I hooked up with the Inheritance through Curtis to do. It was either Pass the Bottle or Worst the Time. I think it was Pass the Bottle.
Yeah, I remember when you played me. We were hanging out on the bus, and you were like, because we were doing that split, which when I was still with the gals, we're doing the split. We're gonna cover your songs, you're gonna cover ours,
right? And
you were like, I hadn't known that you were working with this band or anything. Like, here, you gotta hear "Pass Me the Bottle," and it was like, is that a fucking clarinet? Is that a fucking clarinet? Holy shit!
That was the
and it blew my mind. Man. So I was like, okay, this is
that was the desired effect. I was like, okay. I'm not just going to do a version of their songs. I'm going to do all 4 totally different. First one, or last one's hard blues. First one was real fast, Fast one I did hardcore, and then third verse went into an acoustic ending with keyboards. And then, so I went to Curtis, and I was like, I need like a gypsy style band to do this sort of thing. And he was like, I got the perfect band. I work with this guy, and he has a band called The Inheritance. I'll give him some free recording time, and for them to do it, come by at the end of the session. So I came by at the end of the session. And I've never had chemistry like this ever. It's a shame that it didn't stick around longer. It was, dude, from the moment I showed them the first note, we went through it a few times to the last dub track, hour 45 minutes. Hour 40, everything you hear on there. That's supposed to be a scratch vocal.
Yeah.
I was just putting that on intending to go back in later.
Yeah.
Every lead just came. They'd never heard the song before. Not the original, not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I just wrote down the notes that I'd figured out on a keyboard, and it came together like that.
Holy shit.
So I was really excited. So Worst of Times was floating around. I wanted the similar feel. Got back in touch with them. I was like, I'd like to do it again. Same thing. Hour and a half this time. Never heard it. Got in. So I decided we had to do a whole record. Yeah, and I didn't give them a lot of choice. I kind of did.
He strong-armed them.
I just hunted. I basically convinced them. I lobbied.
You did
the passion.
You
I was like,
again.
I'm feeling this, and you saw the chemistry come together, and just this one thing. I'm not promising the rest of the world. And they said yes, but after that, it's that magic kind of went away, and the rest of the album took 2.5 years.
Yeah. I remember that. I was like, man, I'm working on this for a long time.
It was like, it came together. I was like, this is instant karma. It's meant to be.
Yeah.
We'll get it knocked out. And then we got 4 songs recorded, and then they kind of disappeared. Yeah. I mean, they started to break up themselves, and they had 2 camps, and I had to chase them down. I wasn't getting calls back. But we stayed with it, recorded the rest of the album in 2 different segments. I'd get half the band, because 2 people weren't getting along or something.
Yeah.
So I'd have half the band in to do the thing, then the other half, but we got it done.
Some Spinal Tap shit.
And I didn't even tell you this yesterday. So that record came out, and it's one of my crown jewels. It's one of my. I'm so proud.
Love that album.
Thank you. I love it too. I love it so much. I still haven't gotten tired of it. I can't believe we pulled it off. And it opened up a whole new avenue for me, And it also, I hate to admit it, it was a little bit of an ego stroke. I read reviews out there where people were just flat out saying what everyone was thinking. If you think that this guy is just bleeding, and screaming because he can't sing, you're going to want to listen to this because he's got lyrics and he's got some things. And that felt really good. Yeah. It's a little validation,
Right.
Not that we need that or want that, but we do.
Well, of course. We're out here so that somebody can be like, oh, you're good at that.
Yeah, yes.
Pat myself
I'm
on
going to
the
break
back.
this arm, pat myself on the back.
Exactly.
So it came out, did really well, got a lot of praise, and as of this note, I have now put together an alternate lineup, actually, and we are going to November 1st. We're starting a limited residency. Gary Lindsey and the Pleasure Tide is now a real thing.
Really?
It's my new thing. It's my new band.
No shit.
I have a new band that is starting. We named it after the record.
Okay.
With the sole purpose of props to that. This is where it comes from. We're proud of it. This is the garden, and that was the seed. And so we started with learning all the songs on that record, and then And then we got into some of the Black Eyed Vermillion songs on Hymns for Heretics that are going to translate. And we're hoping to get into some originals, actually.
Awesome.
And we're going to start every Saturday at the Lost Well here in town. And it's just, it's hair raising. I've got all the same instrumentation, and I got an accordion. Of course, we have acoustic bass, acoustic guitar. We don't have that clarinet player, Roy Kuhn, who is a badass, but we have added mandolin and banjo.
Cool.
And 2 violin players.
Oh, shit.
We've got 2, which seems a little weird at first, but when they play together, it's like a symphony.
Doesn't sound weird to me at all.
It's,
I mean, you got look at Bob Wills. You know, I've seen quite a few bands with.
That's I told them. For me, it's
a
the
neat
Irish
sound.
thing. I'm used to jigs and reels where you've got a circle of 15 people.
Yeah.
4 violin players.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know, 3 mandolin players, 2 squeeze box, and it's a jam. And so I want to be able to get that, and that was the main reason why I'm trying to get 2 violin players. A lucky afterthought. Now when we do Pass the Bottle with 2, and the accordion, the wailing part.
That's gotta be
just great, man.
It's gotta be intense.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about the Pleasure Time.
So you're breaking out from Black Eyed Vermillion.
I
mean, I'm
Sort
not
of.
saying that
Yeah.
like it's ending, but
No,
like to
yeah.
kind
It's
of cross over
crossover.
to
Yeah.
something that you're actually attaching your own name to.
That's a little weird.
You know?
That's really weird. You know how that is coming out of band. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, you just think you're like, I'm not like, the name guy,
Right.
like, because I don't play any instruments effectively enough to just get up there by myself.
Sure.
So, it seems kind of just like very self-absorbed to be like this, like the Rollins band. Like I always thought that was the worst name for a band. Just like,
Yeah.
really, Henry? You just your Rollins band. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But it was actually the rest of the guys and the girls in the band who kind of nudged me towards it. They
Yeah.
were like, no, you should, because this is your thing, and you want people to know that it's from where you came from. It's the same thing, but so they were the ones who made me feel like, okay, I'm not being a total, ego maniac, and just, and just saying, hey, it's me. Look, me, here's my name.
Right,
Here's
right.
my name. Look at my name.
Right.
So we're going with Gary Lindsey and the Pleasure Tide for now. And I really hope that we start getting some originals done. It's time.
That's awesome.
Matter of time. But no, Black Eyed Vermillion is still running strong.
Well, it's obviously running
new record
strong
coming
because
out.
you got a new record coming out.
Never shed a bloody tear.
Yeah, so
Never shed a bloody
what's
tear.
up with this album, huh?
Woo! I'm very
What's up
proud
with
of this
album? Let's talk about that.
This here record is, I'm a genre bending guy. I like so many different kinds of music. It's basically unlimited, and that includes stuff that people like you and I are in bands that were the type of bands we're in are not supposed to like some electronica, and I understand when I hear a techno song, I understand where those kids are dancing. I'm not going to get out there because I'll probably break a hip because I'm 100 years old, and also I would look even dumber. I can look even dumber than I've looked. It's possible. Just send me to a rave.
I'm picturing
Give me
you
some
at a rave
accent.
right
Yeah,
now.
I'm sure. But
fucking glow sticks.
But I love all forms of music, and I love when my favorite records are records where at the end of one song you don't know what's going to happen next. Like the Butthole Surfers for me are always one of the archetypes. Like Hairway to Steven. It's just like
I love that album.
you get all you start. You start off and you're all heavy and it's right, and then the next one is just like acoustic guitar with birds chirping in the background, and then it could go into like a cowpunk thing, And that goes from that even to like when I was a kid, and you're just listening to classic rock on the radio, stuff like the White Album, going from something, like Me and My Monkey into Helter Skelter into Rocky Raccoon, or Pink Floyd The Wall, where, you're going to have a rock song, now you're going to have a symphony, tear down the wall. Sure. That's always been my front and my favorite, and I try to do that with everything. And I got a little bit of that on Hymns for Heretics, but this one is going a little further out there, and it's got some bluegrass, it's got some rock, it's got some stoner doom sludge, telling you to cover the 3 Buzz Oven songs into one, with each style being different.
Yeah.
It just, I've got no problem taking on different things because, you can always try. It's a great, you got the studio in this world. Try.
Yeah.
Try it.
Yeah.
Just try and make, a rap song. You don't have to release it, but you got time to kill. Be productive. Get outside of your circle, because a lot of it's not going to work, but you'll always get something from it. you'll get a hook or something. You know, it's like the second that the punk guitar player just plays around and tries to play a jazz song and tries to play jazzy, he's not going to be great at it right out of the gate, but he's going to find some hooks that he can then bring back into the punk song.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time in Black Eyed Vermillion. You know, I use different musicians on every track. My MO, if I had my way, I'd have the same band live all the time, but a different band on every song in the studio. Because different people, doesn't matter how talented they are, they bring different things out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They always bring a different, you can have, you know, you listen to like, you know, get 10 different bands to cover Louie Louie, you're going to get 10 different songs,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yeah.
So I want that. I want each song to have a different dynamic, even if the people listening have no idea why.
Yeah.
You know, they know it all sounds, similar, but there's something really different about this one than the last one. It's because it's a totally different group of people with totally different backgrounds, you know?
So do you have, like with this particular album, how many people do you have that's playing consistently throughout every song?
Ooh, just Curtis, I think.
Really? So every song has a different group of people?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, some of them don't have Curtis, actually, yeah. You know, I did a song with Brent, you know. Brent Hines and I did a song, typical thing. I was in Atlanta visiting for Christmas one year, went over to his house with a little digital handheld recorder.
Yeah.
And I was just like, hey man, let's jam, you know? Yeah. And so he had this big long song he recorded for me, and then I was like, all right, that's awesome. I was like, man, give me a blues wing. Give me something bluesy, you know? And he just got his chops out and just like started hammering it out, and just for about a minute and a half did this kind of bluesy thing, and I sat on it for 5 years, and then one day I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, and I arranged it, I gave it parts, gave it a verse, a chorus, and a verse, chorus. Done. We got a song on a record.
No shit.
You know, the Buzz Oven song I did with Joe Buck in Blood River, Kentucky, in a shed, in a tool shed, you know, for a Buzz Oven tribute record that never came out, and he played everything.
No shit.
Played the drums, the bass, the lead guitar, rhythm guitar, banjo, on some stuff.
He's been known to do that on a lot of stuff, and
he is.
You know, that's.
You got to be one. You got to be one to bend with, Jim.
That's a hefty endeavor.
He's gonna make his. You know, he's going to give his footprint on anything that he works in. You know, if you work with him, he's gonna, you know, he's gonna be like, no. Just like what I was saying with the cover thing, he's like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this.
Well, I mean,
okay.
the last show that I did was with JD, and he kind of talks about that, like that definitely happened.
Oh yeah.
But I think with him, it obviously went it was a little sour.
Yeah, it did. You still can't even say the words legendary Shack Shaker for Jim. But I mean, the album that Jim is on is, in my opinion, all I say has been, it's by far their greatest record.
It's a fantastic.
Cock-a-doodle don't.
It's a fantastic.
Even down to he does a toy piano on one song. I mean, if you look at all the credits on that was
if you read what he plays, on
everything, that was just as much his record as the legendary Shack Shaker record, you know, and the diversity and the originality in the songs, that I didn't know it was all Joe Buck until years later. Yeah, you know, on that record, when I started looking at it, that was always my favorite. And I just didn't know why until I started jamming with him, and then I was like, it's all clicking now. This guy's awesome, and he loves music.
Yeah,
you know, and so we got a song with him, and you know, with different lineups here in town. I'm sure the Whiskey Dick Boys are on it. We got like this kind of Irish song called Finicky Beggar that's got a whole room of 20 people clapping. I mean, we try and make it a party.
Yeah.
But not desperately so. Like a party band that does that at first for fun, but then they feel a need to keep it up because it's the image.
Yeah.
You know, we just nudge the party. The party happens itself. You know, but we will definitely, if there's someone out there who has real chops and wants to play with us, if they're kind of a dick, then it's probably not going to happen, because we want to all be on stage and just great, happy to be there, changes the environment, and that affects the crowd. And, you know, if you mess up a song, it's not a big deal because everyone's having such a good time. Right. You know, or if maybe you're a singer and you get too drunk and you ruin every song in the whole set and forget the lyrics. Forget the lyrics to your own goddamn song. Man, perhaps if that is what you do.
I do that on this tour so far. Every single night, I've forgotten my own lyrics. At least once.
I am so pathetic,
dude. I've been playing this fucking song, "Raise the Moon," for almost 10 years now. Every time, no matter what band. When I was with 357, we were playing it. When I was with the goddamn Gallons, we were playing it. I'm playing it with a broken band. I'm playing it solo, and I'm forgetting the fucking lyrics. I've played this song probably 2,000-3,000 times.
Exactly right, dude. I have turned to Curtis.
Oh my God.
A song will start, and he'll know. I get the blank stare, not the drunken blank stare, though. What the hell is happening?
Help.
I've leaned over to him and just flipped out. What's the first line of this song?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever
That's all
seen
you need. That's
the
all
Chris
you need.
Christopherson, Barbra Streisand movie "Star Is Born" from the 70s.
I have not watched that because,
Okay.
and only because Barbra Streisand, she's got a nose like a bolt.
It's tough.
You're getting
at the start of it, it's either at the start or in the middle, somewhere in there. Chris Christopherson plays a rock star who's like, whose popularity is waning, and he's like partying all the time, very 70s. And I always think about that because there's a scene in there where he goes over, they're playing it, and he doesn't know the lyrics. He's like, "What's the line?" And they're telling it to him, and I remember seeing that as a kid. Like, I was 7 when that movie came out, and it was on TV like when I was 9, being just like, "Oh, that's just pathetic.
Yeah.
That's just pathetic."
What
and
a
then
dummy.
sure as shit, I remember thinking, like, who can forget a lyric to a song? I mean, you wrote it, for Christ's sake. Get it together.
God, how hard is it?
Because I knew so much at the age of 9. And then, 20, 30 years later, it becomes my life. I'm literally like, what is the first line? But it happens. But again, because we have this casual and a lot of fun atmosphere, it turns into a joke. And I can't guarantee that every show I play is going to be good because of that. But I can guarantee that every show I play is going to be entertaining, and I've had shows, where I was just a shit, just an absolute shit show. And I feel bad the next day because, it's like, oh, damn it. People don't pay money to see that. But then the internet will light up with, oh, Gary was on fire last night.
Right. It's funny how your mind fucks with you like that in moments where you think you have an awesome show.
Oh, yeah. You see a videotape later, you're like, oh my God, I was flat. I was
terrible. It was terrible. I thought everybody was fucking going crazy.
Yeah.
They were running for the door.
That's happened so many times. I've got some terrible, terrible video out there from Assjack days, dude, where I am just drunk and I sound like a drunken William Hung, like like somebody's raping a cat and like a gorilla making out with a moose and just like not ending. Embarrassing, really embarrassing, even for that type of music. It sucks. And I did recently, I finally now pulled the reins in a little bit and just made a pact with myself. No whiskey before the show.
Okay.
That is it.
That's the thing.
I can drink Guinness for days and get up there and still get in the zone, but like a drop, like not even a shot. If any whiskey enters me, forget it.
That's the one.
All downhill because it breaks the seal, and then I have to have more. And by the third song,
for me, it's weed. I can't fucking smoke weed.
That's the one.
Yeah, I can't. If I smoke weed before a show, speaking of forgetting everything, I'm gonna look at the mandolin and be like,
what is this?
What the hell is this thing?
Why is this guitar so small?
There was a pretty funny story I had with that once. That for a while, this is when I was still with 357. I wasn't drinking. I was like, I'm not gonna drink on this tour. I'm gonna smoke weed only. Okay? And
brilliant idea.
Great idea. Well, we're doing a show at this coffee shop in I think it was in Belgium, and people bring up shots for the band. I'm like, oh no, thank you. But everybody's smoking joints and spliffs there. I'm like, well, if you got one of those,
sure.
So this guy comes up and just sticks a fucking joint in my mouth.
There you go.
And Joe kicks off this song called "I'm Gone," which is just funny to me.
Perfect.
But it's also one of those songs where there is no time for me to stop even for a second playing to remove the joint from my mouth. So it's a maybe.
And I'm not gonna waste weed.
No, it's
Spit
a
it out.
3-minute song. So for 3 minutes, I'm just sucking this fucking joint down.
Just eyeballs. You're smoking it in your eyeballs, basically.
Yes.
The smoke's just wafting.
It's completely gone in my lungs, in my brain. And now I'm fucking incredibly high. Now I'm gone.
Yeah.
And I look, and I'm pretty sure I got everybody on stage stoned with that fucking thing. And I look up, and I'm looking at the audience, and I'm terrified of them.
Yeah.
And I look over at all the guys in the string band, and I'm like,
I'm
terrified of you guys. And I just literally, I put my head down, and I played my mandolin for the whole fucking set. Brilliantly, I might add.
I must say.
And then immediately as the show was done, I like looked over at, I don't know if it was Joe or Rick or Derek, but I looked at him, I'm like, I gotta go to that hotel room, and I gotta go right now. So I just, gone.
Yep, I finally have said, no more whiskey, and I think, and it's been good so far. Yeah. You know, I do have the first. Usually, a drink gets brought up to me while on the first song, and that can still the last song can get a little because then people start bringing shots and the last song. But then I don't care as long as I'm giving them like a good start, you know, and not getting up there shit faced. So, you know, now this one here. When is this coming out? This new album? It doesn't have a hard street date yet, but I'm fingers crossed. End of this year, we're done. We just got to master it and a couple more things, and then it just goes into production time. Turn it in 3 or 4 weeks. I'm hoping to have it out by Christmas season.
Okay. Well, before we end up going, I'm gonna play a song for everybody. I'm not gonna do it on your new album. Oh. Because unless you really want me to.
No, I do.
If you do,
I do.
What's the number?
Boy, that is. Okay, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. I guess just maybe play the first one, just because it's the first one. It's nice. It's pretty good rocking number. It's got some strings. I think I'm gonna. You know what? I want you to pick it. I'm giving you the CD now. Okay. You've got a little bit of time before this airs. You pop this baby in there.
I'm going to do that. However, the CD that you're handing me does not have a track listing.
Good point.
So, you know what? Why don't you...
I can make that.
Yeah, whip up a little track listing, because that way I can, when I figure it out which one I like, I can say what the name of the song is.
Good idea. We'll definitely
So you guys are going to hear this song after I figure out what the fuck song I want to play. This is Gary. You
Jake.
Guys...
Been great. Love you, brother.
Man. Love you too, man.
You're the reason why we do this.
Fucking A, man.
Fucking meet people like you. As I'm always saying, our world gets smaller with every show.
Yeah, buddy.
And that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
So thanks for being out there and really hitting the pavement and keeping live music alive, my man.
Fucking
Love you.
We'll see you out there.
All right, buddy.
1, 2, 3, 4. Every night, but if there's no bars in the empire, just send me to hell and I am gone. Heaven is dry, I don't wanna go. If heaven is dry, I don't wanna go. No, I ain't no sinner, but one thing I know. If heaven is dry, I don't wanna go.
All right, there it is, folks. It's Gary Lindsey's band. That song is If Heaven Is Dry, I Don't Want to Go. That's on his upcoming album. It's called Never Shed a Bloody Tear. It's not out yet. It's coming out yet. The reason why I picked that song is because years ago, probably about, we're thinking 3 or 4 years ago, before we really got to know Gary, I was on tour with the Goddamn Gallows, and we were playing in Nashville. And the night before, we went to go see Hank 3 play, and all the guys were there. And the next night, we were playing in town. And the whole band came out to the show. We were all hanging out afterwards. And earlier that day, he had just recorded that song. So I thought it was pretty cool to share that one with you. That's a song that he recorded right when we started to really get to know each other about 4 years ago. So that's how old that shit is, bitches. But yeah, there you go. Gary Lindsey, what a fucking weirdo, huh? He's awesome. I love this guy dearly. He's a fucking maniac. He's got awesome stories. What a cool life. What a cool guy. I wish him the best, and I'm glad you guys are checking it out. Thanks again for coming back for another episode of Closing Time. If you could, do me a favor. If you like this show, please follow us on the Epicast network. It's Epicast TV. Rate, review, leave comments on everything. Follow us on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Jayke Orvis. I got the Facebooks up. I got a website coming up, which by the time you hear this might even already be up. Still in the process of dealing with shit. We're a couple weeks behind when I record this from when you listen to it. So, but yeah, and if you like it, the best way you can support us is just to tell somebody. And just like I say at every show that I play, if you like it, tell somebody. If you don't like it, pretend you never heard of us. All right, that's pretty much it, guys. We got another show coming up soon. It's gonna be a dear friend of mine named Brooke Blanche. Will be on the next one. He's the big guy in a band called the Calamity Cubes. He's a big man and a big personality, and a wonderful songwriter, one of my favorites. And he's also a guy that broke my ribs once, and I will tell you all about that leading up to his episode. So thanks again for coming out to Closing Time, folks. We'll check you motherfuckers out later, and in the meantime, Carlito's gonna take us out. Y'all be good. Cheers.
Last call for drinks. Bars closing down. Sun's out.